Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here, and I have the honor of having Mr. John Cruz in the house. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing awesome, man.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I caught a little bit of your story beforehand, but what I like to do on the podcast is kind of let people tell their story, where they want to start, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So a little background on me first. Yeah, awesome. So I'm a coach, and I'm trying to find a better word for the word healer that I hear out there, but something in between there. So use your imagination.
A shaper of pain.
There you go. And a little bit about my background. I currently live in DC, so I'm leading a company called the Rising Warrior, working with vets right now. Started out originally from Puerto Rico, moved to the States here in the US in 2003. Went to junior high school, all that in Massachusetts. Then I went, college for me was the Naval Academy. So got into the Naval Academy, did a prep school year down in Newport, Rhode Island for a year, and then went through the 4 years at the Naval Academy. So for those who don't know, it's a military school, university basically. It's just a regular college that happens to be a completely military school. Got a degree there and commissioned into the Marine Corps in 2014. Got injured towards the end of my commissioning, so my commission got delayed, but eventually I got in there, did some training, became a logistics officer, and then I was in the Marines for 5 years doing that at an infantry battalion out in Twentynine Palms, California. Got out of the military and just started doing a little bit of journeying afterwards. Did some travel, a little backpacking trip for about 3 months in Europe. And then spent some time in Austin sort of figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. Coached some lacrosse out there, and eventually COVID happened, and so ended up just doing took a corporate gig, worked for a big consulting firm, one of the big four down up here in DC where I live now. Did that for a while, realized it wasn't for me at all, and got into coaching, started coaching during the time actually that I was still there. And now that's what I do full time.
Wonderful. And, you were telling me a little bit beforehand, but to frame the story, like what is the Rising Warriors purpose, kind of the impact mission for them?
Yeah. So what we're doing at the Rising Warrior is we are bridging the gap between what all the healing modalities and services that are out there for veterans. We've noticed in our own journeys, there's three of us, myself, Lance, and Sean. And, I've been out of the military now 2.5, almost 3 years. They've been out quite a bit longer, almost 10 years. And there's just a gap between what's available with the VA. There's a lot of great services. You get medical insurance. You get an opportunity. If you're disabled, you have even more services. And then you've got a lot of foundations and services out there that are helping veterans cope, deal with stressors, find themselves after the military. If they have PTSD or TBI, there's a ton of those resources out there as well. And what we've noticed is that there's a gap in between there, between how do you create heart-centered goals that really matter to you personally. How do you communicate better? Those are two of the biggest things we found is community and communication. It's really difficult after you leave the military, partly because we're so compartmentalized in the military that it's difficult to share that experience and then create new ones with new communities. And then also just communication with family and friends, and honestly getting to know yourself. which is, I think, first and foremost, the most important part of that journey. So that's what we're doing at the Rising Warrior, primarily.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple, I help a lot of addicts, and I was addicted to drugs and alcohol for many years myself. And I think that getting to know yourself, but I think what's super interesting is, the way, and I know this because a couple of my business partners are from the military, the way that you're brought up and trained, in order to succeed as a team in the military, it has to be your focus. You have to be present. But what that does also is it creates an identity where that is your entire world. And
Exactly.
I think the bigger issue that I've seen in drug addicts, and I try to tell everybody, like, getting sober is not the problem. It's trying to rebuild the identity that was once a drinker. And I would imagine that some of the issues in the soldier is, here's the thing: fight, 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 be present, be structured, and then all of a sudden, all that goes away.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point, man. And that's why, people call it anxiety, we could call it stress, and a lot of it has to do with your stories and your identity of what you just talked about, being in the military. Hey, the old paradigm for all of us in the military was mission, then others, then self. And that's great for what that was at that time. If you want to be a fully autonomous, empowered individual who has their own dreams and pursues what they want to do, that model does not work at all. In fact, I like to flip it on the other side: self, others, mission. Because even the process of understanding yourself enough to truly actually love yourself and know that you're worthy is already a paradigm shift for most people. Then moving on to supporting other people. How do you actually communicate that with other people? Like, hey, I love myself, and I don't want to be, I want to support other people, and I don't want to be taken advantage of at the same time. And right, and then developing
my favorite quote is George Bernard Shaw: "The single greatest problem with communication is the illusion that it's taken place."
Yeah, exactly.
No, and people ask me all the time, what are the skills that are necessary as a proper CEO, as just a human in general? And it's communication. It's
huge.
And I would say that 90% of the people that I see as clients, they're people pleasers, and they're just getting, there's no boundaries, there's just fear, and so like the genesis of the military is people please.
I mean, it's literally written into our code. Yeah. You're gonna follow orders.
Yeah. And so, one of my jokes is, like, the two things that always find a place if you don't find a place for them: money and time.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Yeah. And so you're out. Now your dreams and your goals are yours, but now the lens that you're looking through is not what it used to be.
1000%. Yeah. And that's what you articulate really well there, that you've got a funky lens. It's your iron sights, you're using a lens that's absolutely muddy and you can't actually see clearly out of it, because the model that you have for almost every aspect of your life is not useful anymore. So shifting that across a bunch of different domains, like, I mean, even something as simple as, hey, which, by the way, for entrepreneurs, I'm sure this is like a conversation that happens all the time, but where do you want your business to be in 10 years? Huge. That's like one of the first questions people ask you, like, oh, that's great. What are you building? Okay, cool. Where do you want to be in 10 years? Because you want to know what is the vision that this person has. Like, maybe it's not going to work out that way, often doesn't. And you want to have the capacity to hold a vision long enough to be able to support that business, grow it, expand it, etc. And taking it from the perspective of just the individual warrior coming out of the military, before I did that work, before I received some coaching, I'd never written down what 10 years from now looks like, ever. I mean, I had an idea, this like kind of far away thing, but I'd never written it down. I'd never really contemplated like what that would mean.
I would say because we help a charity group, people who have been through recovery, like get them on, like just starting breaking down some goals and investing in stuff. And I couldn't tell you how many times they say like, I don't have a vision. Like not only do they not have a vision, they can't even articulate it. And I think I think it comes back to this. You cannot create anything from survival mode.
100%.
It doesn't exist. So until you get up on your skis, like your goals don't even really matter. They're all meaningless. So you have to even get above that where you feel like you have options to survey. And so what I try to do is create in my program is plateaus. Like, let's get to the first plateau. And then I can't tell you how many times my clients write their 5-year vision and 3 months into coaching, they throw it all away and rewrite the whole thing.
Yeah, man. The first time I did, I did the exact same thing. I rewrote it like 5 times or something.
Well, you know why they don't even write it in the first place, right? Because they feel like when they write it in concrete. There's no absolutes. Life changes.
There's no absolutes. Yeah. And that what you just described is like one of the main things we like to teach is, hey man, don't be attached to these goals. Like we just want you to start using your imagination, start tapping into your intuition, start mapping things out. And it's a process. Like you're not going to really get clear. I mean, the goals I set for myself a year and a half, 2 years ago, right?
dude, if I went back 5 years from now and looked at mine like notebooks, I'd be like, who's this guy? Yeah.
Exactly. So really what you are is you're setting a direction. You're setting a big blue arrow to head somewhere of where you want to build your life. And that happens across a bunch of domains. Like that's why I love to have, goals that are professional goals, personal goals, hobby goals. Like what kind of shit are you into, man? Like what do you want to develop? Like, do you want to play guitar? Fun shit you want to just develop.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem. I think that everybody thinks that when they do something, it has to make money. But that thing could give you energy that enhances when you make money. Like that's what it's the dichotomy,
Well, what makes you money is, first of all, part of the ecosystem of your life. It's not the only thing. And in fact, one of the challenges that a lot of veterans have is, because mission is so first top of the line thing, it's like the most important thing. All of that gets transferred out of the military into like business, money making, hustle, whatever that thing is that you're doing. It becomes a single focused mission because, like you said, you don't have the framework, you don't have the lens shifted, and so you end up just burning yourself out in a different way. You become sort of whatever, you're starting to chase these sort of metrics that have been created by either the military, society, however, and you're not truly chasing across all the domains of your life like what you want to do.
If I were to be an outsider and look at your mission that you and your partners are on, like this is a mission. This is a big one,
Thanks,
unfortunately through that, there's going to be, people that you can't save, and there are people that you aren't going to save. But I look at what you're doing, and I think of it in this lens, and I think it's bigger than I think that y'all even know, right? And somebody, a guy that I really respect, said to me this. He says, it's not who you impact, it's the second circle of impact. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And he said, well, when I coach somebody and then they're a better version of themselves, that's going to trickle down to somebody else. So I actually think that, your legacy with this project could be, thousands and millions of people, because that person's helping that person and so on and so on. And there's going to be chapters in certain cities, and, like it's this, and like even you, I'm sure that y'all sit around and dream and have North Stars, but like the ripple effect of this movement could be quite large.
Yeah, for sure, man. And that's our vision as well, is the impact. The true impact is what most people join. Well, I would say a vast majority of us that go in the military is to serve something higher than ourselves, or higher purpose, or whatever calling. And I want to be able to teach people how to take that same energy and bring that to themselves. But what I mean by that is, your calling and purpose, the sense of person, the purpose that you're pursuing, can be a personal thing. You don't have to join a community or an organization to be able to do that. That could be something that's completely driven by you, the individual. And as for us, what's most important is that we want to create a bunch of people who can do this for themselves. I don't need you to be in my thing to do what I do. In fact, if every rising warrior eventually is like a completely different human being, we just like to hang out. Hey, I am so happy with that. In fact, that would be my my greatest journey.
Have you heard of active duty passive income group?
I have. Yep.
So my buddy runs that. I know a couple of the guys that run it. They've gone up to like 30,000, 20,000 members in like a year and a half. They're trying to
That's
end
awesome.
vet homelessness and stuff. And it really takes these entrepreneurships, these leaders of these groups to really have a more. You mentioned something earlier that is really near and dear to my heart, because this is my biggest concern with coaching. Is like, I think a lot of people put everybody, what I call, through the wood chipper. Like, here's the big thing. We're going to treat everybody's personality and everybody's background as exactly the same. And if it doesn't work for you, then it's on you.
That's your problem.
Well,
yeah.
That's your problem. But one of the things that I pride myself on with my coaching is I really design my coaching needs towards my clients. What they need in this moment, and 3 months from now might be different, and so on and so on. And I think that's a lot better way to really give people the thing that they need. Because I think one of the things I noticed the most about adults, and this is what we're missing, is how often do you really have somebody in your corner, like really, with no judgment, like that's supporting you? I'm not talking about your wife. Yeah. I'm talking about another human being. And I think that's what this group, and I think that's what you can offer them, that they're really, you really have no idea how far they could shoot when they have that person helping them.
Yeah. I think that you bring up a huge point, which is having the capacity, which is a lot of vets aren't used to, is having just simple support. Like, hey, listen, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to give you a framework from which you to operate, and I want you to go out there and test it and come back to me and say, hey, this worked, this didn't work. Let's have a conversation about it. Where in your life can you apply this? Where are you facing some challenges? And so that for me, I want to have in our company, what we want to do is, as veterans come to us and we start teaching them how to connect with their partners, how to connect with themselves, how to write goals that are actually connected to what they care about, it's a conversation, right? Like, I mean, you've coached before. Over 12 weeks, you can really get to know somebody and really develop a relationship and be that unbiased support. And still, unlike talk therapies, I give you still a little bit push. Like, I go, okay, great, you're here. All right, let's see where your edges are.
Well, yeah, and so I went to a lot of therapists in my younger days, and I think one of the bigger issues that I always equate to is I think therapists focus on your past, as in coaches focuses on your future.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that we can work on the past when we've got our firm footing on the future.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right. And I think, one of the things is that one of the techniques that I use is I find out who you want to be, and then I only speak to you as if that's already happened. And then what happens over time is you start gaining the confidence and you start stepping to it, because it's really confidence. It's keeping those promises to yourself. And when you're being told what to do, like, how can you keep any, because all you're doing is showing up for somebody else. But it's a way different story to show up for yourself. Like, it's a way different story.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, that's super easy to get out of that contract. Wow, nobody's gonna know that I didn't work out today.
Yeah, that's an easy one, man. Especially for all of us who've been in the service, like just being in a big machine where it matters what you do, but you can kind of get away with not doing some stuff, or like getting around it, or not everybody who's in the military is G.I. Joe doing the best, 6'3", square chin, just killing it. No, you're right. It does bring back the personal responsibility, and I sometimes hear personal responsibility brandished around as like, you got to fucking figure your shit out. And I don't agree with that part of it. What I do resonate when agree with is when we can say, okay, I'm an autonomous being. I'm sovereign. I'm personally responsible for what I do, how I act, how I show up in the world. I'm not necessarily responsible for how that, what the results of that are completely. You do have a responsibility to accept that, and you have the responsibility to go, all right, I did this thing, didn't work out how I wanted to. Great. I take responsibility for that action and that result, and I'm going to move forward from here. And so being able to zoom out of that, sort of big organization, bureaucracy mindset, and now say, hey, this is your life now. It's up to you how you want to live it. And the difference is you're not a lone wolf. This is a huge part that I like to talk to people about. Is like, you don't have to be a lone wolf grinding it out, trying to figure it out. You can now be personally responsible and ask for support at the same time. It's like, hey, I'm focused on this thing that I'm going in this direction in my life. I'm going to use this community that I have, these coaches that I have, these people that support me to ask for support when I get in a place where I'm a little bit stuck or I can't get past it. Which I think, like you were saying about coaching, is such a huge difference. Focus on the future and who you want to become rather than the past in talk therapy, what you're describing. Now, I will say there's a little bit of that. We can get into it a little later, but you need to go to the past as well if you want to go to the future.
100%.
Uncover some layers.
I agree, but unfortunately, the past sneaks up on you when you least expect it. That's what I said.
Yeah, that's right.
You're like, oh, that's a trigger. Back up.
That's right. That's right.
So if somebody is in a place where they are just stuck and they're not even knowing what to do, where do they start?
If somebody's stuck, where do they start? What I love to do is I love to sit with myself and do a journal dump. So one of the exercises that I really, really appreciate that have helped me, especially in moments where I'm stuck, what we're calling stuck is generally overwhelm. So for whatever reason you're overwhelmed with what's going on in your life, you don't know where to go next, you don't know exactly what's happening. And so a journal dump for me is essentially like, what is on my mind in this moment right now? All of it. So if you're overwhelmed, take all that overwhelm and just fucking write for as long as you need to. Write everything. And that journal, that exercise essentially allows me to go back afterwards and read through all the different voices that are talking in my head. The inner critic, the inner child in my heart, all these different parts of ourselves that we are deeply, intimately connected to. In that journal dump, you can go back and start looking through like, oh shit, this is the thing that's getting me stuck. I'm afraid of being, you start uncovering some of those fears. You start uncovering your hopes, your dreams. And so the journal dump is one of my favorite exercises when you're stuck. It essentially allows you to word vomit across everything that's happening with you right now, and then be able to go back and assess, okay, what's true here? What's real here? What's actually connected to what I care about? And what's just shit that's holding me back? Fears, concerns, things that I'm holding on to.
No, I agree. I think it's super important. I just did a coaching certification, and we're just talking about how nobody writes down anything anymore, and it's all stuck up in their head. So you just have to get out of it. And one of the things that I've been doing, because my girlfriend basically told me, like, get it together. Like you gotta do this, like, one thing to like calm your mind, because I have so much going on. I've been doing Wim Hof breathing the past like 2 weeks, and it's been a game changer. And just taking that time to like kind of like reset in the morning has been, along with my other whole morning routine that I do, which is like 2 hours, but has really helped me. And I think just breathing and like you said, writing it down and taking the moment, like, is so important. I don't think that all of us do that. And we're, one of the things I was talking to a client with today about is like, and this might not work for everybody, but I almost look at it as almost like acting sometimes. And what I mean by that is like, I think emotions drive a lot of what we do. And sometimes those emotions don't benefit you when it comes to business. So just
Mm.
leave them at the fucking door and and understand that you just become a different person. Like sometimes your ego wants to say something, but you have to ask yourself this question. Are they even going to care? I mean, what am I trying to prove here? And that's why I told my client, like, they're not going to listen. So just get what you need out of it and then go along with your day. But I think that all starts with self-awareness.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the beginning of what you just talked about. You know, I think that's a little bit further down the road where you can be self-aware and recognize that you're having an emotional trigger or emotional response. Something within you is happening. And in the moment when we're all very good at this generally in the military, is snap in. Like it's time to go. Whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're training or you're in a business meeting or whatever, there are moments where you got to put it on pause.
Yeah.
And then, but what's really, really important is that you're doing the deep work afterwards to go, okay, I'm done with that. I put it down. Business meeting is done. I had to do what I had to do. Now I'm sitting back with myself and I've got all this shit still here. So how do I now sit with this in a way that's actually sustaining and helping my growth rather than avoiding it, putting it aside, going to another business meeting, which I think is huge.
Yeah, I think we all have fuel. That's what I tell everybody. And is your fuel short term or is it finite?
Yeah.
And if you're using your fuel out of anger and spite and revenge, you're gonna hit that burnout wall a lot of times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great way to send yourself to the burnout zone. Yeah.
Yeah, because ultimately, like I'm busy, you're busy, but like our mission, like the impact that we want to leave on this world, our legacy is our higher calling. So the fuel's always there.
Yeah, to me, your mission or what you've chosen to be your mission, the thing that sense of purpose you're pursuing allows you to it sustains you in the moment when things are difficult, and it also is a way to look at the long view. Look at your life 40, 50 years from now. It gives you both of those things. You can go, oh, right, this is why I'm doing this. There's your why, grounding all of the actions that you're taking in the now. And at the same time, it gives you a capacity to tap back into it when things are getting a little bit rough. You're hitting a couple edges. I realize one of the things that happens, I'm a relatively new entrepreneur. One of the things that happens when you're learning about entrepreneurship is there's a million ways to do it. There's millions of people teaching you how to do it. Yeah, exactly. And so your capacity to just go, okay, what do I need? This is my vision. What do I need next? What do I need next? What are the next 10 things that I believe I need? I'm going to go look for a teacher, a program, something that's going to help me do that, rather than seeing, essentially using your purpose to guide you in that way.
Yeah, 100%. I think one of the things that I'm really adamant about is I think in America, especially, I think that it's just basically a decision fatigue.
Right.
There's 9 milks at Starbucks. There's this many YouTube videos, or this guy telling you this, or this guy's telling you that. And so, at the end of the day, I think you take some of it and I think you leave the rest. I mean, you take some of what you need from that moment, and that same book that you might read now, 6 months from now is gonna read different to you because you've gained on knowledge.
Yeah, you're not the same person after those, several months. You've shifted something. And so being able to take what you need, I think this is like a huge skill, by the way, in like the marketplace. Like just being able to look at what your actual needs are and say, like, what are my legitimate needs? Like, what do I actually need from this product, from this program, whatever the thing is that you're purchasing or buying or getting into, and then asking those questions of that. You talked about your coaching program as well earlier.
Yeah, perfect example, true story.
Yeah.
My CEO of one of my companies, I signed him up for a course, and he went to it, and I know what he thought he was going to it for. And don't get me wrong, there's good information into it. And I said, why do you think I sent that to you? And he goes, well, this. And I was like, nope. And he's like, I bet it was this. And what he realized, I actually sent him in the room with a very, very successful operator in the space we're in, because I wanted him to see that he was no different than him. Mm-hmm. And so now he has the confidence to know I can do that, but he didn't know that until he was in the room. So it's the same. It's the same reason with expert seekers. I don't have a click funnel in my business, but I understand what Russell Brunson was talking about, and I can take it at face value and use parts of it for my business. Mm-hmm. But I think we're society of everything's so literal, like this is what it's supposed to mean, but it can mean something different.
Yeah, I would say that everything is modular. You don't need the whole thing. You might only need a piece of it. And this is true in business and in life. Like you might invest a certain amount or time into something and then go, only 10% of that was actually useful, but the 10% was really fucking useful. So I'm going to apply this. Or, the opposite side of it could be like, I didn't know what I wanted that for, and I kind of just wasted money on that. And that return on that investment is going to be very low now. So it does, like we were saying earlier, like your energy and what you're actually asking for, what your actual needs are, getting down to what that is really, really important. Both, and for, to bring that back to veterans this is why it's important to start writing where you want to go, like what your goals are. Because depending on what you define your mission to be as, your personal mission to be as, is what's going to let you make those kind of in real time, in the mix decisions. Like, okay, do I actually need that? No, I don't. Okay, put that aside. Like, take it out of your put it in your periphery, so you don't have to stare at it all the time, and focus down and in on what you actually want to be doing. It also creates a ton of clarity.
Yeah, which I think everybody needs, regardless, on a daily basis. I think if we just woke up and saw the word clarity every day, we'd be better for it. Mm-hmm. So is there a way that people can go out and find out about the mission and what you are doing? How they do it?
Yeah, absolutely. They can hop onto the risingwarrior.com or follow us on Instagram at the.rising.warrior. Mm-hmm. Or my personal page at John Perez Cruz on Instagram.
Wonderful. What is something that people don't know about you that you could share? I came up with that out of the blue.
Something that people don't know about you. I'm a conversational French speaker, and I've lived in the country.
Whoa. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. How did you eat that much cheese? I don't know, man. I was over there in Burgundy, and I'd like have a great meal, and they would bust out the cheese cart, and I'm like, whoa. I can't do it.
You get used to it. It's pretty awesome, though. There's a lot of different.
The food is amazing.
It's unbelievable.
So, well, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for everything that you're doing on that. I can't wait to see y'all progress. And my business partner is a helicopter pilot in the Army right now. He'll be out in like a year or two. So one of the big missions for our companies is to support these movements. So I'm very interested to see how we can work together in the future.
Awesome. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Guys, if you like this episode, send it to your friends, share it with somebody to get some value. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.